As someone who plays exclusively on consoles and only ever jumps over to his long-neglected PC for work assignments and the occasional early access indie, it often feels like there's a whole world of video games I completely miss out on. Couple that with how busy this year has been, and my indie backlog has started to look pretty damn scary. 2025's relentless tidal wave of AAA releases has already let tons of viral gems like Schedule 1 and Peak fly under my radar, but the biggest potential casualty was one I had no idea even existed, let alone set to launch in just over a week. That game is Abyssus, a brinepunk roguelite that's part Hades, part BioShock, and, from what I can tell, all awesome. Unlike most previews, where I'm very aware of what I'm getting into, I didn't know what to expect from Abyssus, especially since co-op first-person shooters aren't usually my thing. Despite my initial skepticism, Abyssus quickly won me over with its unique seafaring focus, in-depth weapon customization, and fast-paced shooting that somehow feels more like Doom than the Dark Ages ever did.
Beauty in brine. Right off the bat, one of the most interesting things about Abyssus is its deep-sea setting. In a world that's powered by brine, you suit up in diving gear and head into the depths in search of an ancient civilization's treasure. The washed-up and oddly beautiful lost world in the heart of the Atlantic makes up the levels you dive further into, and even without a clear story, it immediately captured my attention. Speaking of roguelites, the structure of Abyssus will be very familiar to anyone who has played Hades or the many games taking inspiration from it. As you make your way through the depths and clear out the strange, almost robotic enemies that call it home, you'll be rewarded with blessings and other buffs for your weapons. It's familiar, but with a whopping 150 blessings on offer, ranging from standard fare like fire and ice to stranger ones like being able to generate a protective barrier. Each run will feel incredibly different. The massive potential when it comes to making your own blessed build is matched by Abyssus' most ambitious element, its guns. While the total number of weapons might seem a little slim with just 8, each one also has an alternative fire mode that can be tweaked before you start a run, adding additional depth to firefights. My weapon of choice during my first run was a bow and arrow, which I modded to make its alternative fire a ricocheting arrow that bounced around the room and hit as many enemies as possible. That's just one option though, as there were also mods that let it fire piercing shots and some other neat effects. I only got to properly try out the bow during my time with Abyssus, but it felt very open-ended and had me excited to see how different every other gun could get.
Abyssus scratches an itch that the Dark Ages left.
Of course, it wouldn't matter how many guns or blessings Abyssus has if it didn't feel good to play, but thankfully, that isn't the case. Although you might think that the heavy diving suits would mean Abyssus is a slower-paced game, its movement is incredibly speedy and has you running, dashing, and hopping around each arena. In fact, the closest comparison I can make is to classic shooters like Doom and Quake, which all follow the same "don't stop moving" mantra. Abyssus's movement and gunplay are both incredibly tight and responsive, while the enemies are just challenging enough to keep you on your toes while still making you feel like a god as you turn them into scrap. I sadly only got to play Abyssus for just under an hour during my preview, but it was easy to imagine sinking into runs and not wanting to stop, as that's exactly how I felt when my time was up. My relatively short playthrough that was based on a build with everything unlocked left me with some questions about the overall progression and endgame, but I had a blast with what I played. It also won't take long for any of my remaining questions to be answered, as Abyssus actually launches in just over a week on August 12th. As stacked as the rest of the year is looking, my brief time with Abyssus has me wanting more and hoping that it has a chance of standing tall next to all of 2025's other indie gems.